And now the end is here. A little bit of an impromptu start to our recording. I don't know if Justin and I were even ready. We haven't been ready for a couple weeks. We take a little hiatus as the season comes to an end. I would like to call it grieving time, but really it was leaving time. A lot of developments going on in our lives, but we can't share those just yet. What we can share is our sadness, our disappointment, and our chagrin about the end of the New York Yankees season. One of the days we couldn't record because we were at the ballpark for the Yankees' one win of the American League Division Series against the Toronto Blue Jays, the now American League champion Toronto Blue Jays. So the end is here, to quote Frank Sinatra. It's not near, it is here. We were singing That's Life as the conclusion was reached of the season. I know that we kind of share a lot of thoughts. We also disagree on some stuff. And that's kind of, I don't know if necessarily there's a real rhyme or reason to today's show. We have it. We've got a plan, but what this more feels like is some semblance of therapy session for Justin and I and the end of the New York Yankees season. So sit back, relax. Maybe you'll feel like you had therapy with us as well about, well, the Bronx Bombers. But before I get into anything pinstriped, Justin, how are you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm doing well tonight. On this, what is it, Wednesday evening, because the Knicks start. I think our little therapy session here tonight goes well beyond just the Yankees. We have taken some tough losses on the gridiron as well. Penn State has gone in a completely different direction since you and I last were on here. I believe the last time was right after the whiteout loss.
Mhm.
They have since lost two more games. Three more games and fired their head coach. The Jets still haven't won a game. The Giants had a massive lead on Sunday and allowed the second most fourth quarter points that any team has ever allowed in NFL history. So I think this, probably is something we need more than just the Yankees, because I feel like we've kind of turned our turned on to what's next for the Yankees, but at the same time, there's a lot built up for both of us based off how the Yankees, Penn State, Jets, Giants have all failed at the same time. My Islanders are on a 3-game winning streak, so they've improved since their 0-3 start. I don't think the Rangers are doing well. I don't really follow them too closely. But hey, maybe it all turns around with the Knicks, and for whatever reason, you're a Lakers fan. But maybe it all turns around for us now that, we got a new season to root for. But I'm doing well on this Wednesday. How are you?
I've taken up new hobbies. I'm bringing my guitar. It's pulled out of the closet. I've become a little bit more outspoken about how I've begun to follow Dancing with the Stars.
Is
I'm
that what your Snapchat story was about last night?
Yes, Andy Richter, man, the king lives on. The fact that this man is very clearly not the one who should still be in the ballroom. This poor guy at this point. So essentially, Justin, to explain to you, because this is my first full season ever watching this show. I watched parts of last year thanks to a couple friends of ours from school, and I'm now hooked on this program because it's thoroughly entertaining watching people who have little to no dance experience try to learn how to dance in real time. Andy Richter's the perfect example of that. This man got signed on, for those that don't know, Conan's sidekick for many years on a variety of late night programs that Conan hosted. He's also an incredible comedian and actor in his own right. And he was kind of the old guy character, him and Corey Feldman, who was once in Goonies. They were brought onto the show to simply probably be there as like, oh, they kind of like moved a little bit and it was funny and ha ha ha, it's done. No, we are going into week 7. They are over halfway through the season, and Andy Richter is still there. They voted out a girl from Fifth Harmony. They voted out a guy from Pentatonics. They voted out former NBA player Baron Davis. They voted out the guy from Goonies. They voted out Alec Baldwin's wife who had dance experience. All over Andy Richter, who essentially is gotten better every week, but is getting like 6s and 7s in comparison to guys getting like 9s and 10s. The only 3 men left in this competition are Robert Irwin, who I assume you know who he is. He's Steve Irwin's
Yes.
son,
Yeah, I got that one.
creationist. Dylan Efron, who's Zac Efron's brother. Both doing great, learning how to dance, doing exceptional. And Andy Richter, a 50-plus-year-old man.
Wait. So this guy made it to the final 3.
Final 3 guys.
Oh.
Like, I think there's
How
like
many are left in total?
You're having me do this off the top of my head. Both of the sister or Secret Lives of Mormon, whatever the show is, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I think. Alex Earl, the TikTok girl, she's still on. Danielle from Boy Meets World, she's still in. Elaine Hendricks is still in. There's 9 people still in. And then Jordan Childs, the Olympian, she's still in. So there's 9 people left. And Andy Richter's one of them.
So
And I'm all in. Like I'm at this point, I'm gonna probably vote this guy to the finale. I don't vote on the show. I just watch. And not only did I vote, I'm encouraging other people to vote, and it's ticking off a lot of our shared friends from school because they think he should not be on the show anymore. They should save it for the people who actually are like moving and getting really, really good and better. No, Andy Richter's fun, and people need to enjoy fun. And right now, I'm not having fun in sports, so let me have Andy Richter to root for.
So it sounds like you're going to be texting me to vote for this guy come next, what? It's every Tuesday?
I believe it's text Andy to 21523 if you listen to Watch Bomber Boys. Text Andy to 21523.
If you had to compare this to, let's say, a Yankee that lasted too long on a roster, who would you compare it to?
Ooh, this is actually really good. I could easily come up with a couple.
My first thought was Marwin, who we had a lot of fun with a while ago.
I would say him. Another guy I would say is probably Joey Gallo.
All right.
But he's the opposite of Joey Gallo because everybody hated on Joey Gallo for his
everyone loves this
productivity and progression. No, everybody loves Andy Richter.
Well, a lot of people hated DJ at the end. I was going to say, could it be DJ, where a lot of people loved him, but I mean, towards the end, they started to hate on him.
I have a hot take. I think it's kind of like Gardy. I think it's Gardy. I think a guy who everybody loves, he's beloved, but kind of tails off at the end and not growing as much as everyone else.
Gardy should have been brought back for another year.
I agree. But I'm just trying to think of people who are beloved because the term they've coined for him is the people's princess.
Okay. So he's not Aaron Boone because Aaron Boone is kind of universally hated and still has his job.
No, so while Andy
somebody liked that lasted too long.
We can continue this, or I think we should get into the baseball talk.
Probably.
As much as the only thing going for me in competitive competition, anything right now, is Andy Richter.
How's the guitar going? I was curious. I didn't know you had a guitar. Was that made up?
I do. No, I really do have
a guitar.
It's not going well.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say it's going to be a steady progression.
If you need a singer for a band, I was in chorus until 7th grade, so we could start something up here.
Didn't you play the tuba too?
No, I played the cello.
The cello. Okay. I know it was one of the two.
I could go get a cello. Maybe I could bring the recorder back out. I think there's one down in the basement somewhere.
Okay. Well, I clearly, folks, things have gotten to the point where Justin and I are looking to take up instruments. I'm rooting for Andy Richter on a reality show. Justin's only hope is what, an 18-year-old kid, Matt Schaefer for the Islanders?
Oh, he looks so good. So dang good.
This is where we're at, folks, because the Yankees are out. We didn't expect them to be out, but we also did in a lot of ways.
Let's just be real. We expected them to not make the World Series.
So, again, we began the show with, and now the end is here. The Yankees fall to the American League champion Blue Jays in 4 games. They make it through Boston. I think that was the one thing that I said immediately when they lost. And I even said it to you when things looked bleak at the beginning of the matchup against Toronto that we were in attendance for, where Aaron Judge had his true postseason moment. I said to you, you know what? They could lose this game, but at least they beat Boston. Because if they had lost to Boston, when you have home field advantage in a 3-game set, that would have been heartbreaking. But Cam Schlittler dominated. The team won. And it was a lot of fun. Actually, the last time we taped was the Rookie Rumble before Cam Schlittler really absolutely had a stellar performance. So they win that series. The Boston guy gets a win over his former team, former fandom. And then you get into the American League Division Series where that Saturday and Sunday were hard to watch. The Blue Jays quite literally looked like they half tried and still posted double-digit runs. They put belt to you-know-what. And shipped the Yankees right back to America, down 2-0 in the series. And the Canadians, they were able to really, they controlled the first third of that game that we were at. And then Aaron Judge turned it on. The team turned it on. Felt like they had all the momentum in the world going into that Wednesday night tilt. Cam Schlittler was really good again. And he did what he needed to do. But unfortunately, they lost again. And it was a very, very painful night to watch that post-game show as well. I know you turned it off, but Jeter and Rodriguez had some pretty harsh comments about the front office and about the roster construction. Meanwhile, David Ortiz was passing out tequila shots and screaming, "Dodge, Yankees lose," with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So that was kind of, to sum it up, the end of the Yankees season. Then you and I went on hiatus. We had a number of different other things we were doing. Different projects, also locks and long shots, Penn State firing their coach, Dancing with the Stars. You catch the drift. We talked about it for almost 10 minutes. And now we're here. And I called today's recording. We always title it something, oftentimes something we don't share over air. But today we titled it something that I feel pretty confident about, because it's not just charting a path forward for this offseason. It's kind of charting a path forward for this program, because we don't really know where to go, because we're both mad, sad, but not surprised.
Yeah, and I think that's what hurts more about this year than anything is like last year they lose in the World Series and you knew exactly what was next. You knew it was coming to the offseason of Juan Soto or no Juan Soto. And if it's not Juan Soto, you know they're going to be interested in other big names like Cody Bellinger. I don't think anyone predicted Max Fried, but you get the point. This year it's like, what is it? They've got to this point. They've made a couple of coaching changes that we'll talk about momentarily, but it's like, where exactly can they go from here? Because Cody Bellinger opted out, right? And we all knew that was coming. But are they interested in bringing back Cody Bellinger when they seem high on, Spencer Jones for whatever reason, who had a really bad end to his season after he got hot and the Yankees didn't trade him right at the deadline when his value was maximized? So does Bellinger come back? Is Jazz, coming back? It felt like that was the one question we never got, anyone asked during the press conference for Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone last week. I don't remember seeing any news about Jazz Chisholm and what it could look like for his return to the Yankees. And obviously, there's tons of other questions. What's this bullpen going to look like? But it also is like last year, it felt like you were one step away. And you knew you'd have to go big in the offseason to get over that hump. And I don't think now that we look back on it, last offseason was as successful as it needed to be, clearly, because they didn't get back to the same point they were at last year, and they didn't get over that hump and win a World Series. And this year, it's like, what's going to be that next step? Because you want to say the next step is to go to the ALCS, but that feels like failure since you were in the World Series 2 years ago. And to get back to the World Series but not win it even seems like another failure for the Yankees. But it feels like this is an offseason where the free agent talent pool isn't as good as the Yankees need it to be. And we've seen Brian Cashman's hesitancy to make, major trades during the offseason. Devin Williams for Caleb Durbin was not, I mean, it looked major because of the Williams, name in it. But Durbin, at the time hadn't cracked the majors. So was that big of a deal when you think about it last offseason? Probably not. So it feels like this year it's just so different because you're going into next season with the expectation. We know it's to make the postseason. We know it's to get out of the ALDS this year. But what's going to be deemed successful for the Yankees, right? Is it going to be the ALCS appearance because they didn't get there this year? Is it going to be a World Series appearance, or is it going to be a World Series win to deem a season successful? And why that matters is not about the wins and losses for this franchise. It's about moving on potentially from a guy like Aaron Boone, right? Who just got his extension, but you could move on from him at the end of this year, seemingly without a problem. And you have to ask yourself that question. But again, it's all about where is the barometer. And I think that's why this is tough for us this year, is because we don't know what that barometer looks like. And that to me is scarier than entering an offseason where you just got embarrassed in the World Series. You might lose your second biggest name on the team in Juan Soto. And if you lose him, what's plan 1B? Or, realistically, what was plan B? I thought they did a good enough job to term it 1B. But at the end of the day, clearly they didn't, as the season played out. So I think that's what makes this kind of like we need to figure out a path. And I think it starts with, where is success going to be for this Yankee team? Because it also comes down to the organizational thinking. This is an organization that has seemingly not needed a World Series to be deemed successful anymore. And that's not how it used to be. And we're sitting here now, 2025. So 16 years from the Yankees' last World Series. And come this time next year, it'll be 17 full regular seasons. And obviously you'll see if they can cap it off next year. But it's like, where's the organizational thinking, and is it even worthwhile, coming out here and talking all these hypotheticals year in and year out just for the Yankees to be the same old Yankees that over the last 16 years have been rather disappointing as compared to, the years before that when they would go out and make those splashes?
I think that's the perfect way to put it. And I think that's the Yankees' biggest Achilles heel right now is that you make it to the World Series a year ago. Your goal, your standard of success should be making it back, if not winning the whole thing. Particularly when, yes, you do lose a key cog of that, your second biggest piece, as you mentioned, in Juan Soto, but you backfilled it. And you backfilled it in a pretty big way by going out and getting Cody Bellinger, by going out and getting Max Fried, going out and getting Guy and Paul Goldschmidt, going out and acquiring a lot of arms for the back end of the bullpen. And you went out and backfilled those holes that were created, both in terms of financial number and then also in terms of quality of depth, because that was the one thing that from day one, as much as I was disappointed about the loss of Soto, that you and I agreed on is that plan B or plan 1B, however they wanted to build it, made this team a deeper team than they were when they went to a World Series. And I actually still share the sentiment that I did prior to the postseason, really when we re-upped this podcast over the summer, is that this was a much deeper team than the team that went to a World Series a year ago. So I think
especially once they made the trades too at the deadline.
Absolutely. So I think that's a big piece of the puzzle here is that that's part of the failure to analyze what a standard of success for this season was, is that, yes, you lost the big name that helped carry you to that mark a year ago, but you also didn't just sit on your hands. You did a good job backfilling that. So the standard, in my opinion, should have been World Series or same spot you were in a year ago, and you continue to make moves to win a World Series and find a way to topple the Dodgers. But you didn't do that. You didn't get back to the dance. And in fact, if you want to look at the season as a whole rather than the postseason, you kind of wilted your way into the end of the summer, early fall, where you then got yourself fully locked into the postseason. Because June and July, there was a real conversation this team might not make the postseason. And so the standard of success, I think, deviated a lot. And I think that's part of why this team feels so hard to grade. And it feels like that's why we kind of had some comments from Cashman and Boone that were lackluster, is that this team, for the fans, and I think for some of the guys in the locker room who were there a year ago, felt like it was World Series or back to the dance or bust. And I think for the front office and for Aaron Boone, it felt like, oh, after everything we've been through, let's just get to the postseason and let's win a couple games. That should never be the standard of success. And I get it. It was a roller coaster season, and winning that wild card series was sweet. But you know what else would have been sweet? Winning a World Series, winning a pennant again. And to me, this season in that regard, when you have to look at it holistically, was a failure. So there's definitions of success. There's definitions of failure. To me, any season that doesn't end with 28 at this point is a failure. But not even getting back to the point you were at a year ago, to me, is a failure. And so where you go from here is that's why this is so blurry, because we had a clear-cut thing to talk about all offseason a year ago. I don't know where you go from here. And I think the first start is establishing a very clear standard for Cashman and Boone that we know right now in October 22nd, as we record this, the standard next year is we want to win a World Series. Okay, then if you don't win a World Series, heads need to roll, and that needs to be the standard across the board, whether that's personnel changes, whether that's changes to the roster. There needs to be some kind of initiative taken to make sure that that standard's being upheld, because when you don't enforce the standard and when you sit on your hands and you just say, oh, rough season, but, we want a playoff series and we're going to be competitive and we were competitive all year, that just sounds like consolation prize talk. And that kind of talk and that kind of standard is never going to win you another World Series.
And what it's going to, how we're going to know what this standard is how the Yankees approach the outfield. I think that's where it starts, right? Because, as much as we're trying to focus from this offseason to, or from this season to next season with this offseason, you have to look at it from when they reached the almost peak, right, in the World Series. So Soto was the starting out, right fielder because they had Judge, but whatever. Soto was replaced by Bellinger. Great backup option, right? A guy that has had success. He had a really good regular season for the Yankees, faltered at times in the postseason. Everyone did outside of Aaron Judge, really, for the Yankees. Now, if the Yankees don't bring back Cody Bellinger, we're talking about going from plan 1 in Soto to plan 2 in Bellinger to now plan 3 in Kyle Tucker, and that seems like a fever dream that fans are just putting out there. More realistically, we're going to plan 4 or 5 with Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez or even Trent Grisham. And now you have to look at 2 years ago, 2024, you make the World Series with Juan Soto. And instead of doing what the Dodgers are doing, the Dodgers are really your barometer, the team you have to compare yourself to here. Even if I guess if the Blue Jays win the World Series, you'll compare yourself to them. But Dodgers won the World Series and just went out and strengthened themselves more. And now if you're taking the 2024 World Series and comparing, the Dodgers went from here up. And the Yankees went from here, kind of just stayed level. But now it could go from that level to 2026. They could be out of the picture low. And that's a huge, massive gap between the two teams in the 2024 World Series. And that shows why that shows that the standard of success is deviating from what it should be. The Yankees should have been toe and toe with what the Dodgers were doing this offseason. Because if the best team just got better, then the Yankees, who were the second best team, should also be getting better and should honestly be getting better at a higher rate than the Dodgers are, because you're trying to overcome the Dodgers. And I think it's going to be pretty telling in this first month or so of, the offseason of free agency. Obviously, we still have, potentially 7 more games left here in the MLB, postseason before all this opens up. But it's going to be very telling if we're hearing the reports that Bellinger won't be back, if we're hearing the reports that Spencer Jones is going to be a starting outfielder for the Yankees next year. I get the hype for Jones. I see the potential. I think he fell off. I personally don't see it as much as other, people do. I'd compare it to how I viewed Arch Manning compared to how most people viewed Arch Manning. Kind of the same way here, in my view, is that I view Spencer a little bit lower than everyone else. And I think that's not a risk worth taking for a team supposed to be going to the World Series, right? You need to get proven players. You need to get perennial all-stars and make this team a team that teams are scared to face. And the simple matter of fact is Aaron Judge is getting no younger. Garrett Cole is getting no younger. Giancarlo Stanton is getting no younger. Carlos Rodon is getting no younger. Max Fried is getting no younger. I'll stop there, but you could go all around the Yankees and realize that. And that's where you have to look at this. You cannot sit on your hands this offseason, even if you're like, oh, well, is Bellinger really worth a 5-year extension? Maybe. Yeah, maybe take that shot. And they're going to be too scared because Aaron Hicks blew up in their face. DJ LeMahieu blew up in their face. But I think you just got to see 2026 as World Series or bust. And that comes with danger. We watched how championship and bust ruined a Penn State team this year in football. I mean, we could be talking the same thing if championship and bust ruins the Yankees next year. But I think that's really where the thinking should be. You have to get better. And you have to get better at a rate that's higher than the Dodgers got better. Higher than, the Blue Jays are going to get better. Heck, even the Red Sox, because the Red Sox, if they were fully healthy, I think they beat the Yankees in that wild card series.
I think that was my next point right there, of that, you kind of had an opportunity to capitalize on this postseason. Detroit feels like it kind of went right to my comparison of the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a year away, in my opinion. I think they're a year away from being a legitimate World Series contender. Seattle, I think, overexceeded expectations this year, but they could be right back there, and they're a dangerous team, and they're willing to roll the dice. They clearly proved that at the deadline. Another team, obviously, are the Toronto Blue Jays. They have a nice core. They have a good group. They can easily be back there. Boston, overexceeded expectations this year. They could be back in the dance. Baltimore could be back. I mean, Baltimore still has a nice core. They could easily get back after a bad year. New manager, new leadership. There's a number of teams that fall into that category as well. You could throw Houston into the mix as well. They're always a tough team. Same with Cleveland. So within the American League, and there's going to be teams we don't expect that I didn't mention. Texas still is willing to spend. They've proven that. So you have to roll the dice. You have to take chances. And particularly as we go into the next topic here, with the number of injuries already that we know about, and some of you might not even know about. just to put into kind of context here, first and foremost, just because I know it was the biggest, most hot button topic, and it happens when he's the captain. But in Aaron Boone's presser, he said that Judge is going to take some time off, continue to do strengthening things, and rehab staff. He will not require offseason surgery for his right flexor strain, essentially just taking time off pretty much until the World Baseball Classic is what it sounds like, where he is the captain of the team. I know Justin's a little bit worried about the World Baseball Classic, probably going to be another conversation for another day, because it seems like we're bunching these injuries as a whole. Some of the more worrisome ones: left shoulder labrum tear for shortstop Anthony Volpe. He went through surgery on the 14th, performed by team physician Chris Ahmad. He will not swing a bat for 4 months, will not put any pressure on the shoulder for 6 months. And it got to the point that he was requiring cortisone injections during the season. So this was a big part of the conversation of, we immediately saw some dissension between Cashman and Boone, where Boone said he didn't think his injury was affecting him, and Cashman said he believes it was affecting Volpe's performance during the season. It would make sense. You and I had theorized that there was a level of hurt that Volpe was playing with, and that was kind of why, at least on my end, I was a little bit softer on him, but you really can't be soft on the guy because it's his manager's fault for putting his feet to the fire in that regard and not recognizing when your guy's hurt. Carlos Rodon has a bone spur in his left elbow and loose bodies. So he went through a procedure to get that shaven down. He will not throw for 8 weeks from the date of the surgery and would be potentially delayed a couple of weeks into the beginning of the season.
So just read between the lines there. Potentially with the Yankees means he will miss the beginning of the season.
Yeah. And then Cole is scheduled to start throwing lightly from the mound through the offseason. He's supposed to meet with his doctor in California sometime right around now, actually. Cole officially will not be ready for opening day. That was pretty much known. And the procedure was a complete UCL reconstruction. So, again, you don't know what he could be when he comes back. And then, again, worth noting that it's 11 to 13-month timeline for Clark Schmidt from when he got hurt. They expect him to possibly be an option in the second half of next season. So the starting pitching depth clearly takes a hit. And two of the faces of this team, one, clearly the captain, is still a concern, not necessarily as heavily as the other ones I laid out there, but the shortstop. And it goes to our biggest question we've had for some time, which is mismanagement of injuries from this team. It's happened on a lighter scale with a number of arms and a number of position players, but on a grander scale, when you talk about a guy like Rodon who was hurt and a guy like Volpe, and even going back to Cole heading into that postseason. So I'm just going to group them all together and say, what is your concern about the injuries that we've now found out about and the injuries we've already known heading into the offseason?
If we're basing it just on what we know, it's going to be a 6.5, right? Because Cole's going to come back, maybe a month or two into the season. Rodon only a couple weeks into the year. And Clark, we knew the moment he got hurt, he was pretty much a toast for 2026. Getting him for any bit of 2026 is a win, I think, for the Yankees. He'll be their big trade deadline acquisition come August. And obviously Volpe, it's a weird one when you think about Volpe, because this injury could go one or two ways for the Yankees. They could show that they're tied to him and that they're never going to go in a different direction, or this injury gives them an out right off the bat to just say, you know what? You've been disappointing anyway, and now you're injured. Let's go get a starting shortstop and make you come off the bench or earn playing time once you get uninjured. Wow. Once you get healed. So that deviated from where I'm supposed to be here on the panic meter. I'd go 6.5 because it seems not horrible, but also horrible. And I think where I'm baking in that it's going to be worse, and I almost said an 8 for injuries, and I know kind of crazy when you think it's just 4 guys, and I haven't even mentioned Aaron Judge, which you said it best. I'm still concerned there's more there, but if they're telling us it's not, then I'm going to believe them and not speculate anything. The problem is this is how you're starting your offseason in October without your ace, or a guy that's supposed to be your ace, without your third starting pitcher, and without, depending on the week, your 4th or 5th starter in Clark Schmidt. You're without your starting shortstop, and you still have the other holes that you have to address this offseason in terms of replacing Bellinger, potentially Jazz, that type of stuff. But you're already without 4 major pieces. to your team. And there is not a single MLB team that comes out of spring training 100% healthy as how they went in, right? Take these 4 injuries aside. We know for a fact that there will be another arm injured, potentially 3 arms injured, bullpen and starters combined. We know that some position player is going to take probably a fastball somewhere they shouldn't take a fastball, be sore and miss a couple days, maybe a couple weeks out of the gate. And we just know that's bound to happen. It happens for all 30 organizations. So starting in October with 4 injuries is a concern, because by the end of spring training, are you still at these 4? Heck no. Are you at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? How many injuries are you going to come out of spring training with? And who are these injuries going to be to? I'm not saying it's better to have one guy injured than the other, because that sounds horrible. But truth be told, Aaron Judge versus, I don't know, Spencer Jones, let's just say. One of those guys you definitely want in your lineup opening day. The other guy, go back and forth. You don't want anyone hurt, but what is the magnitude of these other injuries you compile? Because the magnitude of the 4 you already have are pretty massive. And now you've got to deal with the magnitude of what else is to come. So right now it's a 6.5, but I can tell you that that's because you asked the question about these particular injuries. Realistically, I'm at an 8.25. I know we're supposed to only go to 1 decimal point, but to make it easy, 8.25, right? Because I know this isn't the end of the line. Who gets hurt training this offseason? Who tires their arm out? It's all this stuff. And that's where my concern really lies. Because, yes, you just went a whole season without Garrett Cole. So you can go a couple more weeks without him. You can go a couple weeks without Carlos Rodon. You obviously knew Clark Schmidt wasn't going to be an option. And you can go a couple weeks without Anthony Volpe or a couple months. But it's what else comes, what piles on top of what's already there, that I think it's got me concerned.
7-2 is where I stand. I think you hit a really good job on talking about the potential for injuries down the road and potential for what could happen with spring training and how wilted teams get, especially as you knock the rust off in the those kind of February, March months. So I think you did a good enough job on that. I won't consider that in my scoring factor here, but I think why it's a 7-2 for me is, yes, partly because of what you laid out, the timetables for a lot of these injuries and, their roles within the team, but also because we've seen how the Yankees have backfilled when a guy's coming back before. Because you use the verbiage that I used when we were on the phone the other day when I was grabbing coffee about it, or the verbiage that you just said there that we have said a number of times, both when we did this show in school and now as we've done it post-graduation, is that they view more times than not reinforcements from the injured list, injured reserve, whatever you want to call it, they view that as acquisitions. That's not an acquisition. That's getting you back to full health. And that's the verbiage that you should use. So when when Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter are saying Aaron Boone is not the problem, Brian Cashman and the roster construction is, I tend to actually agree with them, because something happened at some point from when those guys retired to this new era of Yankees baseball where you don't go out and swing for the fences. And then the worst case scenario is you are talent laden and you have to find ways to get rid of guys who aren't earning their spots in the lineup or in the rotation or in the bullpen. The scenario in which the Yankees have adopted is it's cheaper to stay in-house. It's cheaper to take a low-profile swing. And then our guys that we've invested a lot of resources, both fiscally and time is a resource in, we'll wait on those guys to come back because those are acquisitions when we get them back. It's not an acquisition. It's getting back to full strength, the full construction of the roster in which you initially aimed to begin the season with. So right now, as New York Yankees front office, your thought should be, we do not have Anthony Volpe until May. Let's look at worst case scenario here. We don't have Anthony Volpe till maybe late May because for some reason this team can never get a timetable right when it comes to an injury. And so your realistic goal now should be, Not just, hey, we already have Kabi, we're going to get, we're going to get a guy back healthy in Oswaldo Cabrera. No, your goal should be, we need to go out and acquire a controllable shortstop or infielder potentially, or go out and sign a free agent to a 1-year deal. If you can get him, maybe a short-term deal, whatever you need to do, that can compete with Anthony Volpe as well. Because Caballero and Cabrera should be your depth guys. And I don't even think both of them are going to be your depth guys. I think one of them ends up sticking. One will probably be traded. The reality is that, and actually with injuries, they'll probably both be on the roster and probably start a number of games. But the reality is that you cannot go into the season and say Jose Caballero and a returning from a gruesome injury, Oswaldo Cabrera will shore up the shortstop position. No, you need to go out and get a veteran, or you need to go out and take a swing and say, if this doesn't light a fire under our star wonder kid's rear, I don't know what will at this point. Because not just should he, because if Aaron Boone's quote is true of, it wasn't really impacting his performance. Okay, then you need to go out this offseason and get a guy who's going to light a fire and compete with him for the job. His job should not be guaranteed heading into next season. I think a prime example of this really is, look at Daniel Jones, a guy I know you're not really the biggest fan of when he was a Giant, but you're excited now to see what he's done with the Indianapolis Colts. Going out and getting a guy who is a fan favorite and was when he was with the Giants, competition. It can only make them better. And if it doesn't make them better, then you need to move on. And so to me, competition either breeds success or you find out what you really got. And in this case for Volpe, you just got a great excuse to go out and get competition because of the injury. But the reason it's a 7-2, same as it is for the starting rotation, is that they're not going to do that. They're going to go out and get a mid-tier back-end rotation arm, maybe, or they'll just slot Alan Winans or somebody in there for a couple games.
Another Carlos Carrasco. That's going to be their move.
A veteran guy, low profile, low money, low cost, low risk. That's the Yankees. That's the Yankees brand these days. Low cost, low risk. Nothing that's going to get you burned. Nothing that's going to get your head chopped off or get you fired. But something that's just going to shore it up enough. And maybe they'll have some bright moments. Maybe they'll have some staying power with the team. But what we found with this modern day of roster construction with the New York Yankees and Brian Cashman is that these low profile, low risk, analytics based decisions, more often than not, aren't your Luke Weavers of the world that turn out to be key contributors to the team. More often than not, they are your guys who are playing in Scranton Wilkes-Barre by June or with another team. Or like I think of a Jake Bowers, a guy who did actually catch a second win and make a longer tenure for his career and turned out to be a low risk, high reward. Luke Weaver, they're not all like that. And that's why my injury risk, my panic, whatever it is so high, because I just don't trust this team to backfill from injuries the same way they do when they lose a high profile player, because that's the smack in the mouth this team seems to need. But when it comes to an injury, they're going to come back. You don't know if guys are going to come back 100% either. It was a complete UCL reconstruction. I think people need to be tempering their expectations that Cole's just going to come back and he and Fried and Schlittler are going to be a murderer's row of your front end of the rotation. That might not happen. It's actually likely not to happen. So we need to temper expectations, and the Yankees need to learn how to backfill from injuries.
The simple matter of fact is you hit it on the head. Garrett Cole will not be what we know and love of Garrett Cole, especially at the beginning. Yeah, could he work his way back to that? I'd say he could work himself back to probably 90 to 94% of what he once was. But out of the gate, you're talking 50 to 75. It could be anywhere in that range. Look at Luis Heel when he came back. He was coming off Rookie of the Year, and he didn't have his whole elbow reconstructed, right? And I think what you said so well about the backfilling is, look, you don't need to go out and get an ace to fill or to fill 3 spots in this rotation. Let's be real. That's unrealistic that you're going to get 3 different aces to fill these spots. And it causes a logjam when these guys come back from injury. But you cannot tell me that a rotation of Cam Schlittler, Will Warren, Max Fried, and Luis Heel and add in somebody, and it can't be, and let's just say they do it their way, the Carlos Carrasco method. You cannot tell me that rotation, 1, stays healthy, and 2, gets what you need out of it, right? Max Fried probably, we hope Cam Schlittler develops a nice little breaking ball to make himself more potent. Will Warren couldn't really pitch on the road this year, and he couldn't pitch against any team that was in the American League East. And obviously, Luis Gil's been injury prone to the point you and I have kind of said it's time for him to go into the bullpen and be an arm out of the bullpen, that he shouldn't even really be in the rotation. And then to add in a Carlos Carrasco type, who I think had a 5.49 ERA before getting DFA'd, that's not acceptable for the New York Yankees, for the winningest franchise in the MLB. And I'm not saying you need to go sign 5 Garrett Coles, but you need to get a capable starting pitcher in this league. And I don't know who that is, right? We'll talk about some names in a little while, but have that guy. And worst case scenario, he just drops down. He might start the season as the 2 starter, and by the time all these injuries are said and done, he's the 4 or 5. So be it. If you can stabilize the rotation early on, because you cannot go in with these big expectations, little results, dig yourself into a hole early and expect yourself to dig out of it, especially knowing what the Yankees become under Aaron Boone in the month of June, July, and those dog days of summer. You have to be ready for all that. You have to get out of the gate hot. If the Yankees did not get out of the gate hot this year, they do not make the playoffs, right? Because of how bad they got. And I think you need to open your eyes, the Yankees do, and realize that. And about Volpe, you mentioned earlier about Jeter and Rodriguez saying it's more on Cashman than it is on Boone. And I think the Volpe situation kind of shows that off the bat, right? Because Aaron Boone says the injury wasn't affecting what was going on, but Brian Cashman says the injury was affecting what's going on. These are 2 different guys that view, former top prospect, a highly, touted shortstop, in 2 completely different lights. Aaron Boone has basically said, and I know he comes out every week at every press conference, like, yeah, we have faith in Volpe that he's going to turn it around. But by him saying that that the injury wasn't affecting what Anthony Volpe's play was, he basically said, we've seen what Anthony Volpe is. He is not good. And Brian Cashman is still holding out hope. And it's concerning. And it leads to that, if you're not on the same page, right? If that alignment is not there, it's going to cause problems. And I think we've seen it. And I think it's why we've seen some changes from the Yankees. And the question is, has it been enough changes? Which brings up this fun segment.
I don't think we need to even really lead into it, though. For our audio listeners, I threw up a graphic for our other typical segment, our staple of the program, Judgmental Justin versus Positive Price. But, we were kind of struggling to find the topic for this, because the reason I threw it up on the screen is we're kind of already diving into it. So I figured we'd just throw it up on the screen, and that's our way we transition into it, because I don't think there needs to be some change of topic. I don't think there needs to be some change. It flows naturally into, we've talked about medical malpractice. We have talked to, and I know that's a harsh word, but to an extent, that's kind of what it's been. And I again, we only can sit from an 1,000-foot view and be armchair experts. We don't know everything that's going on in the New York Yankees locker room. It'd be cool if we did. It'd be great if they gave us that access.
Listen, if someone wants to give us that access, please do.
We are here. We would love to do it. It would be fun. But with that said, we don't know. But what we can look at is read the tea leaves. There have been a number of injuries that were either poorly reported, not reported at all, or came out way after the fact that have proven to be detrimental to this team. So between front office, between what we just talked about and the injuries and backfilling and the lack of really holding guys accountable in that regard, this was supposed to be Judgmental Justin versus Positive Price, but I think we share the same sentiment that it kind of just needs to finally be it, one way or the other. That if there's not alignment, or if things aren't going to change, or if you don't go out this offseason and make those sweeping moves to be like the Dodgers, to truly elevate yourselves from this team and this plateau and where you're at right now to a higher standard, then if you don't have the success you think with your plan one more time, then heads need to roll. And unfortunately, you take a risk with that. You took a risk with that when you got rid of Joe Girardi and you brought in Aaron Boone. You take a risk with that if you do get rid of one of the longest tenured front office members in this franchise's history in Brian Cashman, or a guy who has been consistently successful in Aaron Boone. But we have just saw our other fandom, our alma mater, do a very similar thing, where they got rid of a guy who for 12 years brought consistent success, rebuilt a program. there wasn't a lot for Aaron Boone to rebuild, but he did take this team to another level, and he did take this team to a higher standard of, complete success from that tail end of the Girardi era. So you can give him his flowers. You can give Cashman his flowers, but you also then need to look at it and say, if we're not improving, if we're not growing, and we're just staying stagnant and complacent and content with just making the postseason, getting into the dance, selling some playoff tickets, then something's got to change. So for me, it's positive price in the sense of you have one more offseason to make. You have one more shot. You can't throw it away. Little Alexander Hamilton for you there. I know Justin has no clue what I'm talking about, but you can't throw away your shot. He's shaking his head for our audio listeners. You can't throw away your shot, and you need to go out and take some swings this offseason. And if you don't, and if you lose Belly, if you lose a couple other key pieces, and you just try to run it back one more time, I think more than likely, Justin and I a year from now, and maybe you clip this and save this, but I think maybe a year from now, we're talking about kind of a change similarly to what we just saw from our alma mater of you take a risk, you take a swing, and you might not get back to the point you're at, but is being good, just where you're going to be? Or do you want to be great? And being great, you unfortunately have to take the risk of being mediocre or less than that for some time. It's kind of just where am I at? This isn't really a true judgmental Justin versus positive price because that wasn't really positive. It's just, I don't know, dude. They got to take the swing.
Let's forget our alma mater. Let's talk to Yankee fans here. We weren't alive when it happened, but the Yankees kicked Buck Showalter out the door for Joe Torre. And look how that worked out. Really damn well for the New York Yankees, right? I don't think anyone would go back and say, they should have kept Buck another year. I think he would have done the same. And heck, maybe he would have. Maybe they put enough talent there that anyone would have won with that team. But the simple matter of fact is they let Buck walk. And Joe Torre came in and he won, 5 championships with the Yankees or whatever the number is. And Buck went off and had his own really good coaching career, managerial career that I think ended without a World Series as a manager. If I'm not mistaken, or it was just one, whatever the case is. The simple matter of fact is, yes, Aaron Boone has made the postseason 7 of his first 8 seasons. He's the second manager in MLB history to do that behind Dave Roberts. Let's be real here. Roberts won World Series in a couple of the 7 of the first 8 that he made. And he obviously won against the Yankees in 2024. He's got the World Series rings to prove that he should stick around, right? And the question, I think, becomes a lot less about Aaron Boone right now and more so about Cashman. And I know there's, so many ties and he's been around for so long, but if you get rid of Cashman, you likely getting rid of Boone with him. You take them both out at the same time and you make the change. And I think you can think about it like Showalter and Torre, and you could think about the GM role in that same spot. Is Brian Cashman making the moves that puts the Yankees in the best chance to win? I mean, we don't know exactly what negotiations looked like with Juan Soto last year. Simple matter of fact, though, is that Juan Soto is a better player than Cody Bellinger. And yes, Cody Bellinger had a good season. I'd re-sign him right now, and if he's asking for an extra year on his extension, I'd give it to him. And who cares what happens in 5 or 6 years down the road if you have to eat that money. But obviously, they're going to be scared of that. But if there was a chance for Brian Cashman to offer a little bit more money and keep Soto or give him a suite at Yankee Stadium, why didn't you? Right? And when you went out at the trade deadline and passed up on Eugenio Suarez for Ryan McMahon, yeah, I saw what you were doing defensively. But the fact is, Suarez hit over 50 home runs, approached 60. And the fact is, Eugenio Suarez played longer than your team did. And he did better than Ryan McMahon did in the postseason. And he did better than some of your other trade deadline acquisitions did in the postseason. And you look at it that way is, yeah, they made a bunch of moves, but did they really put their team in the best chance to win? Especially you and I talked about it. Did Aaron Boone really deserve the keys to the Lamborghini that Brian Cashman built? Because Aaron Boone almost had too many options to play with, and I think at times it ate him up. I don't think I saw it happen. It ate him up at times about trying to make these changes to play this managerial game. And if you're basing everything off of analytics, as the Yankees do from the top down, starting with Brian Cashman, you have to wonder just how much, Boone I don't want to say knows how to manage a game, but when he's got all these tools, how to use them, how to properly utilize them. And I think, we've seen a lot of teams recently, right, do what the Yankees did when they got rid of Showalter for Torrey. We saw the Knicks do it, getting rid of Thibodeau for Mike Brown. I don't know how that's going to go. I could tell you I'm not happy that Mitchell Robinson is getting load management, a day off for load management on opening night. I could tell you I'm already not happy with the way things are for the Knicks. You don't know how it's going to go. But sometimes you have to take that big swing and see what happens. And I won't come out here and say they have to fire Aaron Boone to win. Heck, they could easily win with Aaron Boone. They've already won with Brian Cashman. But right now, this combination has not worked together. And it's something somewhere. Maybe it's not even them. Maybe it's Hal up top. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that maybe it is Hal, kind of penny pinching for no reason when the Dodgers are opening their checkbook time and time again. And I think what shows at least a little bit of progress is Mike Harkey, Travis Chapman, they're both gone, right? They are making moves. Travis Chapman, the first base coach, had an up and down season, right? Everyone will remember the Miami incident with Jazz, and then Aaron Boone reaming Travis out, even though it was really on Jazz. There was clearly some problems there already. And the one thing that I have an issue with the Yankees of recent times, right? Harkey and Chapman were not fired because of bad performance. They just weren't brought back. They let their contracts expire. And I think what you have to do if you're the Yankees is be willing to eat some money if you think it's actually going to improve your team, because I don't think we've seen that a lot recently. And if that means you eat, a year of pay to Aaron Boone next year and a couple years of pay on Cashman's extension just to get something going, then do it, right? You can't be afraid to take those chances, especially with the roster you have constructed right now that has the best hitter in baseball on it in the prime, right? He just had another massive season that if it weren't kind of thrown off track from injury, he probably has over 60 home runs again. And that's that's what you have to focus on, is you're running out of time in this window, and it looks pretty dark and bleak on the other side of this window because you have money locked up in a lot of aging guys that you're going to have to eat in 5 years or so while these guys are not performing at their highest. And that's going to handcuff you in terms of trying to win then. So the simple truth is this year, this offseason, next offseason, and the offseason after that, that to me is your window to win. And if you don't do everything in your power and explore every opportunity, even if you don't, fire any of these guys, at least have those conversations with them saying, hey, if you don't win here, you're done, right? Like, and that type of stuff. You have to explore every opportunity to give this team a chance to win.
I think next week is going to be the true Bomber Boys blueprint. I didn't tell Justin. I just am telling him now that I think next week is going to be our part one of what will probably be an off-season long what is the blueprint. But I think next week is a good opportunity for us to really make our predictions.
Well, it'll probably be the week. Let's be real. It'll probably be the week after. We're both a little busy next week.
I don't know. Maybe we theorize. Maybe we have some fun at some point.
All right.
Maybe do it on social. We'll figure out a way to do it. But we will come up with a Bomber Boys blueprint very soon for everyone to kind of view, look at, and listen to our thoughts on what we think they could do. We will share thoughts. We did it last offseason, and we will do it again this offseason. But
we were wrong last offseason.
But before we kind of wind down and talk a little bit about the current baseball still being played, I do think there are a number of names that are being floated with ties to the New York Yankees right now. I think there's 3 right off the bat, and then some we can kind of just go back and forth on. So this is a new segment. It'll be an off-season segment. It's a play off a long-running inside joke between myself, Justin, and a good friend of ours. It's called I Like It, I Love It, or I Gotta Have It. It's kind of pretty standard there. It's either I like it.
Can we tell the story of how it came about, or do we not have time for that?
If you would like.
Well, if anyone knows me, you know that I love ice cream. So when we were in Myrtle Beach, what month of the year was that? June. Yeah, we were out and about, and I said, I really need ice cream. So we walk into a Cold Stone Creamery, and these are their size options. I like it, I love it, or I got to have it. Now, on that particular day, I had to have it. So I went the largest option, and that's where this all starts. So maybe we're taking ideas from other people here by using this as the segment name, but I felt like it was right to, give a little insight on how that came about.
I like it. I love it. Or I got to have it. Brought to you by Cold Stone Creamery in North Myrtle Beach. No, it's not actually, but if they would like
Not
to
actually.
we would absolutely appreciate it. But a couple names I want to throw out, and I think you can't start this list without starting with.
Wait. Can we add sorry to interrupt. This can stay the segment name.
Fine, it's already an hour in. That's what else you got now?
It's only 55 minutes, and we spent 10 of it talking about Dancing with the Stars. Can we have a don't gotta have it option?
I kind of thought it covered it, where I was going to say I was giving you the parameters and the rules to this game I created before you decided to tell the whole story of how this started.
All right, go ahead.
I like it. I like it. If they did it, it's fine. Not thrilled, whatever. I love it yeah, that's good. It's good. I'm happy with it. I got to have it this needs to happen this offseason. That's great. You want to add another option to no?
I don't gotta have. No, you don't have to put it on the screen. I can just say it. I made Dylan mad here.
I don't. I like it. Oh, sorry. Preview for those watching on video to what's next. I don't. I like it. I love it, or I gotta have it.
All right. There's
no room to do. I don't gotta have it.
There's a 200 character limit. There's certainly room, but just leave it. Just get to it.
It's that small. All right.
Start naming it.
First name is Kyle Tucker. Chicago Cub currently has a higher WAR, 2 years younger than Cody Bellinger. Where do you rank Kyle Tucker, the prized white whale of this offseason, it seems like, for a number of Major League Baseball teams? Kyle Tucker. If you want, I can give you more time to read the stats. Just quickly here, I'll just rattle them off. Kyle Tucker this season. Oh, no, that's Kyle Uckert, whoever that is, a scientist at NASA. Shout out Kyle Uckert. 266, 22 homers, 73 ribbies, 133 hits, a 4.5 WAR, and an 841 OPS for Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, I think it was Chris Kirschner yesterday, and I don't know if it was exactly him, but answered someone's question, why would you rather have Tucker instead of Bellinger, and went into the hitting aspect, the fielding aspect, the base running aspect, the fielding aspect of the two. And the simple matter of fact is Tucker's a little bit better in a majority of those categories. And so I think I would say I love it. I love it. I think it would be a great move. I don't know if I got to have it just because I think I'd rather consistency in Bellinger, but I love it because if you don't bring Bellinger back, he is your best option to bring in. I mean, a lot of people say he's better than Bellinger, but, I think consistency does matter in a clubhouse. So I love it.
I actually fall somewhere between I like it and I love it for the exact same reason, because I think for this position, put a price on consistency. I also put a price on the versatility of Bellinger. I also, the biggest price I put on here truly is the consistency of the fact that Belly was the number 2 to Judge all year. They've gotten a rapport with each other. It seems like he's gotten to blend well in that clubhouse. And to me, I like Belly for that respect, because you can make the same cases for consistency of quality of play, maybe to a higher degree, versatility, a number of other things for Kyle Tucker. Defense is improved, batting better, all those categories. You can make the case that he's better, marginally better than Bellinger in a number of those categories. He's also 2 years younger. But for the fact that I also think Bellinger will cost less money, consistency, I'm with Bellinger. So for me, it's I like and love it. I'd be okay with it. I'd be happy with it, particularly if you lose Bellinger. But I guess I would put it as I would rather have Bellinger. So to me, I think we might be the 2 Yankees fans on the planet that are saying, yeah, I love it, but I really just kind of like it.
Yeah, I definitely don't have to have it.
No, I don't have to have it, to be honest with you. So that's Kyle Tucker. We'll break that down a lot more intricately as we get into this offseason and as more buzz continues to surround him. Another guy here, I think this one's really quick. Kyle Schwarber. I got to have it, but it's not going to happen.
Honestly, I'm not even that high on it. I mean,
Really?
yeah,
I was
he's
just in Philly this week, and I think they built a statue for him if he re-ups.
if there was a place for him to play DH on the Yankees, I'd say I got to have it. But him in left field with all the left field problems out there, I guess I don't know. I think I'm against it. I think I like it and I deal with it.
You figure out how you get him in the lineup. I think
We
that's my
keep saying that though, and Derek Jeter and A-Rod come out and say it's another poorly constructed team. It's the exact same, and it's another lefty. They don't need another lefty.
It's Kyle Schwarber, one of the best players in my opinion in baseball. I think you can find a room for him, but I think there's one place he goes if it's not Philadelphia, and it's right across town to Queens. So that's kind of just how I think it is, and I think he's probably going to stay in Philadelphia. I think there's more likely another guy who could move from Philadelphia that would be alluring to the New York Yankees. But we're not going to talk about him because he's not a legitimate free agent right now. And he wouldn't be a legitimate free agent. He'd be a Yankees trade acquisition. I'm going to have you throw out names because to me, the third name that I wanted to start with, who isn't as alluring or as connected to the Yankees, or Schwarber wasn't as connected to the Yankees, but was still, in my opinion, as alluring. This is a name who's alluring, connected to the Yankees, young, and seems like he was a part of the Yankees' intention for this offseason a year ago when they did not go for a long-term solution at the first base position when they went for Paul Goldschmidt. Ben Rice obviously having an exceptional year this past year. To me, it's Munetaka Murakami. I hope I got that right. I don't think I did, but Murakami, he's going to be posted. He, just for reference for those that don't know, he played with the Swallows in the NPB. He's another Japanese-born player. The Yankees have not had success in this regard because the Los Angeles Dodgers have, taking Roki Sasaki and most notably Yoshinobu Yamamoto from him. Murakami is a lefty. He throws righty, plays third base and first base, 6'2", 213. You can find a spot for him. He's young. He's talented. Last year, he hit 286, 392 on base percentage, 851 OPS, 33 homers in 143 games. Most notably, though, it was the 22 homers in 56 games playing this year. I battled injury, but to me, this guy's a can't miss player. You got to have it. I think you have to swing for one of these Japanese-born players because the success rate has been so high. I've been saying this for some time. I said it with Masataka Yoshida, which wasn't to the highest degree, but you don't have your guaranteed locked-in answer at first base or third base. I think this is your kind of guy. I think you can make him your number 2, number 3 lineup in the lineup option. You could really build a lot of your lineups around him at the core of it. I think he is an impact player. He's got pop. He's young. He's a building block for the future. And long time for me, since really, I guess you have to go all the way back to Tanaka. The Yankees took a swing on a Japanese-born player who got posted. And it worked out for Tanaka. It's worked out for a number of other major league teams. And the Yankees have struck out when they have tried. This needs to be one. He said he wants to play for a West Coast team, but he likes the Yankees. If you can make the money close, hell, you might have to outbid the Dodgers at this point, but I think you got to get him in the lineup. I got to have it. I think you find a way to move the deck around with McMahon and Rice. You got to have it.
I got to have it.
Yes, okay. I thought I was selling you on it. That's the only reason I went so long.
No, there's concern about him. His strikeout rate, they think, is going to project to be high. Congrats. So is Giancarlo Stanton. So is Aaron Judge. Well, he cut his back. So is Austin Wells. So is 1 through 9 in the Yankees lineup, basically. So a guy that can hit a lefty on the short porch at Yankee Stadium. I do have to say, Yankees lineup projects to be very left-handed heavy again. They've got to switch something up at some point. That's not for now to talk about, really. I guess it is a little bit, but that shouldn't scare you away from him. I'm not even going to try his name. I think what you said that I didn't need to be sold, it was going to be my reasoning, so I'm just going to repeat it, was the success rate of guys that get posted, whether it be from South Korea, whether it be from Japan, anywhere overseas, is very, very high. And even if they have a bad first year, Masataka Yoshida is a great example. He started off slow. He came back around. Now, he's battled some injuries that obviously yeah, you can see sometimes that a player's injury prone, but also you think things can fix that, right? And people say Aaron Judge is injury prone, and go look at his injuries. The one that really held him out the longest wasn't his fault. He got hit on the wrist, right? Um, you know, so I think, and then he crashed into a fence. But I think when you look at it, is yeah, you might have to suck up a couple bad weeks of them, and will he hear some boos? I'd hope not that early. The Yankee fans didn't boo Anthony Volpe till year 3, so I think you'd be able to, have that guy come in and have some success, and I think it's worth the risk, whatever he wants. As long as he's not trying to make more than Aaron Judge, I think it's worth it. I think you gotta find some success because look what happened with the Dodgers. They didn't get Ohtani off the bat, but they went and got Ohtani in free agency, and he brought over Yamamoto. And Yamamoto, kind of same boat, struggled out of the gate, got going, and seems to be really good and had a really good start in this postseason for the Dodgers, and probably you'll have another one in the World Series. So I think the success rate alone, you read this guy's stats,
He's a
22
freak.
home runs in 56 games or whatever. That's a pretty nice clip. Extrapolate the data. I love the word extrapolate. So basically triple the number of games. So triple the number of home runs, 66. Yeah, I'd sign up for that any day of the week.
All right, we'll go rapid fire the rest of the way here because now it's just kind of throwing out names. But there's one we got to start with, Michael King. To me, I love it. I almost got to have it. I think you find a way for him, whether it's moving back to the pen, which I don't think it'll be, but a back end starter. Seems like he loved New York. I think he was a high culture guy. If you can find a way, if the price isn't too costly, I would love it.
Yeah, I kind of go in that I live it, like you said before, kind of in the middle of those two. What's the cost? I don't think he's worth it on a really big contract, but if you could get a discount because he started his career with you, I'd absolutely take him.
That and if his market doesn't necessarily develop in a pretty
And
strong,
I
I
was
would
going to
say.
say, I don't think his market's going to develop the way it projects.
No. I kind of will throw out some names. I don't know if you had any others you really wanted to hit on guaranteed, but I feel like we talked about the bigger names. So if you want to throw out some names, we can just go rapid fire back and forth here. I don't really have other big ones jumping off the page to me that I wanted to talk about in elongated fashion. I guess there's one, Pete Alonso. To me, I don't want it. I mean, I think he would be fun. I do think Polar Pete would be a good time, but I think defensively at first base, he's a liability at this point. And I think that's kind of where it ends for me of that. I would rather take the liability chance with Kyle Schwarber because I love Kyle Schwarber. But I do like Polar Pete. I think it would be almost in I like it territory.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's anything I would want to really see happen.
I'd agree. I would say I like it if it were to happen, but I just like it feels like the names surrounding the Yankees are at the wrong positions, right? Like, why are we talking so much about first base? And I know the Japanese born player, I mean, yeah, he plays first and third. He's a corner guy. The Yankees don't really need to be looking at a first baseman specifically. Well, Pete Alonso's from the right side. He would help the lineup. I'm going to
Yep.
talk myself into loving it, aren't I? You're right about the questions on the defensive side.
It's not
But
questions. He's a liability on the defensive
yes,
side of the ball at this
but you
point.
also had liability.
True.
You
He's
also
a
had
liability.
you also had a liability there at times with Ben Rice, and right now Ben Rice projects to be the first baseman. So
True.
I like it, but he's gonna want a lot of money, right? He earned it with this another
Perfectly.
big year. But I wouldn't pay that big money because if you spend it on Pete Alonso, you're not going to go fill the other spots that you really need to. I'd love to bring up the name JT Realmuto. That is I gotta have it. I cannot deal with another year of lefty catcher. 3 on your roster at some point, and even when you had 2, they were both lefties. You need that balance. Austin Wells has been an offensive liability, maybe not a defensive liability, but an offensive liability. Look, Realmuto, down year, but he's a righty. He's a guy that's veteran presence. I think you take a chance on him for a year or two. You need the righty catcher. You need to get back to being able to actually platoon the catching position. I got to have JT. If it's not JT, it's got to be a right-handed catcher somewhere. I got to have him, though.
I'd like it just off the bat. I just don't think they're going to do it. So that's why it's kind of in the like it territory. I would love it. I really would. I would love it. I don't know if I have to have it, but I would love it. Just because I think he would be a massive addition to the lineup. And I think he guaranteed production. He's a locker room leader, a clubhouse leader, a guy who can come in and be a big impact guy. He's really good defensively. And I would love it in that regard. Almost got to have it. But because I don't think the Yankees would do it, I think they would go for a cheaper option at catcher. I would just say I like it. But I guess that's not really the game. Yeah, I love it, or I would almost have to have it because I love JT Realmuto. So
I have two more names. Now, one is completely unrealistic. They're not going to bring him back. However, he's a free agent again. And the Yankees could have a need at the position. Take aside the fact that it's probably not probably, it's definitely not going to happen. However, if there was a reunion with Gleyber Torres, where would you mark that on this meter? Assuming Jazz is gone. That's the assumption here.
Jazz is gone, then I love it.
Because I'm starting to assume Jazz is gone based off the quietness we've heard.
I would say I love it because I think he has always been productive, and I think the Yankees realized how much they missed that this season. Again, I go back to 2 seasons ago when he was the most productive bat in the lineup and most consistent.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'd agree. Obviously, if Jazz is gone, I think he's the guy you should go talk to. I don't think they will. I think there's a more realistic. I think, well, yeah, especially with the way it ended. I think there's a more realistic chance that the next name I say, that I think I know where you're at and I know where I'm at, but I have a feeling if Jazz is gone, welcome to New York, Luis Arias.
I like it, almost love it.
I don't like it one bit. I just don't think he moves that needle at second base in the way you need to. Aging, I don't know. It doesn't
really.
It doesn't float my boat in the way it needs to.
The concern would be he's 28. The concern would be the price, I think, as well, because I think his market's not going to develop as much as people might think, given his stat line and what he's accomplished in his career. But I think that it really is a paradox. It's a tough situation to kind of predict. I would love it, almost got to have it because of his consistency. And I think the Yankees have significantly lacked that. That's my point, is that, I mean, he's bet over 300 or almost 300 his entire career. And so I don't see that dropping off. And to me, you get that in the lineup, that's a guaranteed leadoff second guy in the lineup every day. And for maybe some defensive woes, which I don't think is a real conversation starter, I would love it, almost have to have it because of that. I just think the price, I think there might be a less of a market than people think, but also it could get a lot pricier than people think. It's kind of his market's a paradox. I'm really interested to see how it develops. I think San Francisco makes the most sense, though.
He's already playing around with comments for almost every team. I don't know. Maybe I like it. Obviously, I don't think it does the same as Gleyber and Jazz would do.
I think it's the consistency, though.
But I guess, I've been screaming for the Yankees to get a contact hitter, and he would be just that. And so maybe I should love it. And you're right about the consistency. I have one last name, and we can end this one because we've gone on. Devin Williams. I know it's supposed to be free agents and not guys the Yankees already have kind of.
I'm going to take a cop out because of that. He's a longer conversation. He's a longer conversation. If you had to give me, gun to my head, quick, rapid, I would say I live it. I really almost close to say love it if you can get him for a low price. I just think a team like New York, and I'm talking about the Mets here, is going to overpay for him. So that's what concerns me. And I don't want to see them overpay for a guy who is not going to be your closer.
Yeah, I think the pay is going to be the factor here. If he's willing to take a little less and be a regular reliever, but I don't know if he'll be able, if he would like to. The simple, way to look at it is his postseason alone. He showed up. You can't say that about everyone, but sure. I mean, I think, like you said, we'll have more of what we actually expect next week. And
it was a good baseline, though. You can kind of gauge a lot of where Justin and I think they need to improve on by our takes. We didn't hit on pitching a ton, but I think the lineup is certainly interesting. There's some fun options. Like, I like Luis Arias. I think he's a fun conversation to be had. I think we could take opposite sides there. Kyle Tucker's a fun one. I think the one guy we're unanimous on pretty much is Murakami.
Yep.
Okay. Good. Let's talk about a guy who he doesn't clog the bases though, like Luis Arias. Cal Raleigh, congratulations to him, man. He broke Judge's American League home run record if you include his postseason home runs, his spring training home runs, and his home runs will probably hit next year and maybe when he was like 12 in Little League. This is the stupidest. I love Cal Raleigh. I've been very big in Big Dumper's corner all year, but the Major League Baseball media is going to make me dislike Cal Raleigh because this notion that, well, you combine his home runs, you do all this, that's not how it works. It's the regular season home run record. He's not going to be in the record books. It doesn't count. I love Cal Raleigh. I love Big Dumper. He's having an incredible season, but it doesn't count. I'm frustrated, Justin.
It's this thing that the media loves to do and write these narratives about players trying to create a storyline in a new city, right? And a market that seems like it's got a ton of potential, which Seattle always has been. They've got more than potential. Let's be real. That's a great fan base, especially when Seattle's winning. And Seattle became America's team a couple years ago when everyone was hoping for them to squeak in. And what it does is it hurts, I think, the rest of the fans, because why are we pushing that Cal Raleigh has the AL record, including the postseason? Does he have the regular season record? No. Did he have one heck of a regular season? Absolutely. Did he have, the most home runs from the catching position? Yeah. Keep saying that. But the simple matter is when you try to rewrite narratives, it doesn't work. And that's what you're right. The way we're treating this record is going to make a lot of people dislike Cal Raleigh. And that stinks because it's not on him. He's not the one going around, I have 70 combined home runs or whatever the number is, 65, I think he ended with. It's not that. It's like, it's stupid that it's even a conversation. Yeah, congrats. You have more home runs combined than Aaron Judge did that historic year that Aaron Judge had. Great for you. But it's not a real record. Nobody goes to the record book seeking who has the most combined home runs, regular season and postseason. No, there's a regular season home run leader. And if Cal were to continue to play, maybe there was a postseason home run, leader that he could have gone and broke. The end of the day, both of them are sitting on the damn couch right now. So it's really a stupid conversation to be having in general. And the fact that there's graphics being made about it. Come on. At this point, if you want to, I guess go count Cal's home run derby home runs that he put up, maybe his batting practice ones, whatever you want to extend the lead over Judge. The truth is this shouldn't affect the MVP. And this shouldn't affect how anyone looks at Cal's season. It was great. His postseason, he was great. But Judge still had a better statistical year, both this year and the year he hit 62 home runs.
He broke Ken Griffey's Mariners single-season home run record. That in itself is a massive accomplishment. 65 home runs is a massive accomplishment. Making it to the American League Championship Series, massive accomplishment. That's what the Mariners fans should be celebrating. That's what the Mariners should be celebrating. I know they're not right now because, like you said, they were still on their couch. This one hurts. He was in tears. That's the Cal Raleigh we want to see. That's the Cal Raleigh, the passionate guy that we all fell in love with this year. What we don't want is the media making graphics and making it out. And you can also tell the legitimacy of the outlets that are saying that he broke Aaron Judge's AL home run record. There's two outlets, and I'm not going to name here, that both led their headline with Cal Raleigh breaks Aaron Judge's home run record. He didn't. That's not what happened. But we all know what your guys are trying to get by doing.
We like to have fun as Penn State alum with the Super Bowl graphic that's posted every year. And at this point, I think they continue to post it just for fun. It's Penn Stater has appeared in every Super Bowl. And then in small, tiny writing underneath, it says except for 3. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. Like, yep. It's just silly. It's silly. No one.
Have fun. The graphic on the screen for our audio listeners is who to root for. It's been a great show, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in.
I told Dylan I wore my Knicks sweatshirt for a reason tonight. I'm going to be rooting for the Knicks. Luckily, life gets busy, so I don't have to watch the World Series. I'll be dead honest. I have not watched a single game since the Yankees got eliminated. I'm
I
a
watched
huge
the
base.
inning affair.
All
I
right.
watched the Tigers Mariners game because I was up. It was fun.
Yep.
That was it.
I,
I hope they both don't have fun. Honestly,
there's
I hope
no win here because
it's a clean
conventional wisdom.
series. I hope it does great for ratings. I actually hope it does go 7 for the game of baseball, but I hope they don't have fun.
Conventional wisdom tells you can't.
sucks.
Conventional wisdom tells you can't root against the team that eliminated your team, the Blue Jays, and an American League East rival. You can't root for them. So you would root for the NL side, but it's the Dodgers. No one wants to see the Dodgers win anymore. That being said, I've got Dodgers in 5.
I'll go Dodgers in 6. That's the show today, folks. We will have a lot more breakdown of what is to come for both Justin and I, but also for the New York Yankees. It'll be the Bomber Boys. I was going to try to find another B word to get some alliteration. Their off-season blueprint. Let's just keep it simple. It's the Bomber Boys blueprint. We'll have it soon. We'll break it all down. We'll have some fun with you guys. It's always a pleasure. It's always a privilege. It's always an honor. Justin, what are you doing this weekend? I don't think we can.
Oh,
no, you're on a vacation.
Lake trip. Going to Lake Michigan.
I'm filling in for Paul for the remainder of the week. Paul Ciliberto here on
What are you doing this weekend?
5949. Sleeping. I have been up before 5 or after 5 every single day this week. I'm sleeping. Look at these bags under my eyes, my friend.
I hate to do this. You just said you've been up before 5 or after 5 every day this week, which is good because if you weren't up before or after 5, you'd be dead. So I'm glad you've been up before or after 5 every day.
Before or after 5? What?
You said I've been up before or after 5 every day. Yeah, you either have to wake up before or after 5 every day.
That's the show. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, X, Bomber Boys Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube at Bomber Boys Podcast. Follow us on Spotify, Bomber Boys Podcast. You don't see my looks of disdain on the podcast, audio only, that is. For Justin Chevalella, I'm Dylan Price. Wherever you are, wherever it may be. Thanks for hanging with us. Let's go, Yanks.